All right, y'all, we back with another reaction right here on ABP Reactions. This one is called How a Teen Captured a Serial Killer. Shout out Spider-Man. This was referred by him. Let's get into it.
And try to strangle her the second time.
I'm saying stuff.
The following confession of a serial killer and the crime scene photos documenting the horror he left in his wake have never been revealed before.
She got in the car, but then shortly thereafter she figured out what was going on and she started fighting. She started saying, wait a minute. She was drunk.
And what did you do?
I hit her, trying to make her shut up. She wouldn't shut up.
Did you make a mess in your car of any type?
Yeah, she did.
What'd she do?
Diarrhea.
What did you do about it?
Tried to clean it up.
With what?
Her jeans.
Jason Westerman was outside in his neighborhood in Gibsonton, Florida, playing with his neighbor Greg Adams when they came across something that was sure to haunt them forever. The boys were playing parachutes, a game where they put stones into plastic bags and threw them up into the air, when they noticed something odd beyond a barricade at the bottom of a dead-end road. It looked like a dead cow. The boys were curious, so they went a little closer, and that's when they realized it wasn't an animal at all. It was a human body.
Whoa.
Around 6 p.m. on May 13th, 1984, they ran home to tell Jason's dad what they had found. Little did they know this was just the very beginning of a twisted and unbelievable nightmare.
Was that some cleats?
When the police arrived, they interviewed the boys before Jerry Westerman led them to the body. It was a naked woman, lying face down on her stomach with her legs spread wide apart, and
Whoa.
both of her hands bound behind her back with a white cloth and rope. There was a rope tied around her neck 3 times in a slip knot, a different material than the kind used to bind her wrists. The woman had black hair spread around her and a piece of cloth under her head. But when the officer approached to get a look at her face, which was pressed into the grass, he realized that there were maggots covering her face.
Golly. Shit, Spider-Man. It's too early for all this, man. Golly.
Still, she appeared to be between 14 and 30. At another part of the dead-end road, police found material like the piece of rope similar to the kind used to tie the woman's hands and some red cloth. It looked like she'd been attacked in this spot, and her body was then moved.
Okay, can you describe the area that you left her at? If you don't remember the name of the road, can you describe what was around it?
The road dead-ended, and it was like just grass. Drove out on some grass, and it was a cow field.
She was killed by being stabbed and strangled and had likely been dead for 2 or 3 days before her body was found. But police found something very interesting: red fibers on her clothing and body.
Okay, what happened when you got her out there?
Red fibers.
That's true.
You remember how you had sex with her? You don't. If you want to talk about it, fine. If you don't,
I'd rather not.
okay, that's fine. What did you do with her clothing?
Threw it out the window.
You know what she was wearing?
Dress.
Newspapers reported the horrifying news that an unidentified teenage girl was found in a ditch. Because she was left without clothing and jewelry, and she didn't have scars or tattoos, there was very little to identify her. Right away, people wanted to help and began calling in with the names of missing girls, but none seemed to match the victim. Then, after both a friend and a young woman's boyfriend called the police to say that she was missing, the police ran the girl's fingerprints against the victims. It was determined to be 19-year-old Ning Long. Nin went by Lana and was from Southern California. No one could imagine why someone would hurt her. Lana was seen by one of her neighbors 3 days before she was killed, standing on the sidewalk and crying after she'd been kicked out of her apartment by her boyfriend. According to the neighbor, she asked for $10 because she had nowhere to go. Her boyfriend admitted that they got into an argument when Lana quit her job as a dancer without telling him. After their fight, her boyfriend left the apartment and she told him, "If you're going out, I'm going also."
Wait a minute. He got mad at her because she quit her job as a stripper? Okay. Sound like he's a pimp.
She never made it back.
How did you get her into your car?
I just asked her if she wanted to ride.
And what did you say to her?
She said, yeah.
Okay. When she got in the car, what happened then?
I asked her if she wanted to go have a drink. And she said no.
Okay, and then what took place?
A cold night.
Wow. He didn't waste no time. What the hell?
What did you say?
She started fighting and screaming. I just tied her up.
At the beginning of the investigation,
Bro, this shit is so crazy because back in the day, that was common that you could be driving somewhere and you will see people hitchhiking, just out with their thumb out, just random people. And they used to just trust random people. There was a time when people would just trust random people picking them up on a highway. And the cold part was, A, the driver could be a psycho killer. B, the hitchhiker could be a psycho killer. But people still would do it. They would hear about these situations, somebody getting killed from hitchhiking, whether it be the driver or the hitchhiker, and yet they still would do it and would still pick people up and more people get killed. Shit is crazy.
into Lana's murder, her boyfriend and a cab driver that was seen picking her up on multiple occasions were both looked into, but the men were later cleared. There was frustratingly little evidence, but authorities initially thought the killing was a one-off and continued looking for Lana's killer. They would soon realize the truth was even darker than they ever could have imagined. Just 2 weeks later, the police were called to another chilling scene. Louis Anthony Jordan was out walking in a wooded area near his home on the morning of May 27, 1984, when he stumbled across a horrific sight. A nude woman was lying face up just off a dirt road. At first, he thought she might still be alive and in need of help, but as he approached, he realized that she'd been dead for a while. He quickly went home and called the police. Jordan told him that he walked that same route all the time and had even done so 2 days earlier on the 25th, but the body hadn't been there then. Similar to Lana, though slightly different, the woman's hands had been tied to her waist, and the same rope was around her neck. A green t-shirt was also wrapped around her upper arms to bind her. There were slashes across her throat and wounds to her head. She looked to be in her late teens or early 20s.
What?
So you tried to strangle her, she wouldn't choke out, then you stabbed her with a knife?
At first, I hit her in the head with something.
What'd you hit her in the head with?
It's like a clip kind of thing. More like a nightstick.
Okay, you remember how many times you hit her and where you might have hit her?
I think just once in the head.
Okay, and what took place then after you hit her?
Sickos, bro.
Did she go out again?
Yeah, but I don't know.
Why did you hit her with a club?
I didn't want her to suffer.
Like he killed her with a club. Cracked her cranium. He was trying to crack her cranium, man.
So that you would not have her suffer while you were doing what?
Killing her.
Once again, investigators noticed tire tracks in the
What a
area, which
sicko.
they took plaster casts
Sicko.
of, along with a single footprint near the crime scene. They also found a white jumpsuit with bloodstains hanging from a tree near the body. These details of how the bodies were staged reveals how the killer seemed to enjoy the process of not only capturing, assaulting, and murdering the women, but also finding creative ways of disposing of the bodies. During an autopsy, the medical examiner used superglue on the body in an attempt to lift any latent fingerprints and dusted the skin with graphite powder, but neither came back with anything. The woman had been hit in the head with a blunt
Superglue.
object 5 times, causing massive blunt trauma
God
shock and
damn.
a severe hematoma to the left side of her brain. But it was the cuts to her neck and chest which killed her.
I took her out of the car.
Okay.
Nice.
What is the point? Like, niggas just be wanting to kill shit. Like, what is the point of doing all that just to try to have sex with them? Like, bro, you just cracked her skull, stabbed her up, and then you have these niggas they be sick niggas. They be having sex with them after they're dead. Like, you a sick nigga. Like, and for you to even do that one time and then be able to go home, sleep at night, wake up 2 days later and do it again is crazy. You know what type of mentality you got to have to, right now, if you even accidentally killed somebody, you'll probably be like, damn, before you do it again. I mean, if that's your job, going out there being protecting yourself with a gun and being a cop or something, I get it. But just as a regular bystander, like, a sicko grabbing up little girls, killing one, you would think like, oh, let me go hide, let me go run, let me get up out of here. And then you come back out 2 days later, same city, same place, do it again. is crazy. That's a sick mentality right there.
Stabbed her with a knife.
And you know where you stabbed her?
The neck.
Okay, how many times did you stab her, do you remember?
Couple. Once in the front. I think once on the side.
Okay, it was just like an inward thrust type stab?
Yeah.
The investigation began with hundreds of interviews, all trying to determine if anyone could recognize the victim from a composition sketch. Police uncovered that the young woman had been seen near some bars just before she died, but at first, no one was sure who she was. Finally, though, after a woman who worked as a prostitute saw the sketch of the victim, she began to worry that the Jane Doe was her friend, Michelle Denise Sims, who had been working with her on the Saturday before the body was found. She thought her friend had lined up a trick with some people in a van on Nebraska Avenue and hadn't seen her since then. The girl was leery to call the police herself, so one of her friends contacted the authorities. 22-year-old Michelle's fingerprints were compared with the deceased and confirmed to be her. Michelle had moved from San Bernardino County, California, where she had been a beauty contestant, to Florida 3 or 4 years earlier. While in Fort Pierce, Michelle worked as a receptionist at a massage parlor. Then in May 1984, the same month she was killed, she moved to Tampa, a decision that cost her her life. Red fiber samples were sent to the FBI to be compared against samples they had taken from Lana. And here was something shocking. The fibers on Lana and Michelle had come from the same nylon carpet. With this discovery, the police realized they likely had a serial killer on their hands. The sheriff warned the public that there might be a killer in Tampa.
He must got red interior in his car or something. That's what it sounds like to me. He's driving an old pickup truck out there picking up the goddamn prostitutes and leaving them in my goddamn yard.
Targeting young women. He had no idea just how true that was. A month later, on June 24, 1984, Ronnie Barnes was working at an orange grove mowing the grass when he noticed a pair of tennis shoes sticking out from under an orange tree
God damn,
and a
another
bad
one?
smell. Soon after, he called the police to tell them that he had found something horrific.
They told me not to try nothing. And it's basically the same thing as with the other two girls.
Which was to do what?
Tie her up. Head with her,
Damn, that's a third one.
strangle her.
Trying to do what happened?
They took her over by a tree.
Okay.
Put her up in some shrubs and laps.
Right off the bat, those living in the area told the police that they had frequently seen the victim walking past their homes. Though a lot of people recognized her, the police weren't completely certain that they were following the right lead. But they found the ex-boyfriend of a girl who matched the victim's description. David Quick told the police that his ex-girlfriend's name was Elizabeth Loudenbach. She was 22. The police were sure that Elizabeth was their Jane Doe and focused on interviewing any of the men that Elizabeth had dated.
All right, what was the situation with Elizabeth? I wonder. They're about to tell us, I'm sure. But the first one, she was a dancer who quit her job and got dumped by her boyfriend. He was mad, so she was out on the street. All she needed was $10. She was out there thirsty. She hopped in the car with him. Boom. You know what I mean? She get killed. The other one is an ex-prostitute. She jumping state to state. She just out there probably thinking she finna turn a trick. She hop in the car with him. Boom. Now this one right here. So he pretty much preying on girls, either like stragglers or prostitutes. It sound like, and young, desperate. Shit, one only needed $10. She was convinced, just give me $10, I'll be straight. He got like a type. He got a type here going. He's preying on young, desperate girls.
For a few months, there was a lull as investigators continued to struggle to find out who had killed any of these women. But any sense of peace ended on October 7th, 1984, when Clarence Hale and his wife went into one of their pastures to check on their cattle. He stopped to relock the gate and noticed a piece of yellow cloth laying on a tree stump in an overgrown area. He started walking through the grass and suddenly saw a body lying on the ground.
God damn, another one?
The woman had been assaulted and then shot in the head and the neck.
Oh, he got a gun now.
And what happened?
She wouldn't strangle.
So what did you do then?
I shot her
You know where you shot her?
in the head,
You know what part of the head?
back.
As the investigators once again began interviews, they found a woman who said she knew the victim and had actually met her while in the police stockade. She claimed that the victim told her she was in jail for prostitution, and both got out of jail at the
Preying on prostitutes.
same time. The women went to a lounge together and met up with some other prostitutes. She told the police that the victim seemed hesitant to go off with any of the men who stopped to pick them up. She seemed like a nice girl who didn't belong on the streets.
I was pulled out. She came up to the window and I asked her what she was doing. She told me that she wasn't what I thought she was. Meaning hooker, I would think. And we just got to talking.
The victim's name was Chanel Devin Williams. She was
Oh, he done killed her sister. He done killed her sister. He done killed her sister, man. Come on, man. Now you're going too far, bro. Now you're going too far.
only 18 when she was killed and had moved from Winter Haven to Tampa only 1 month earlier. Just when the police thought there couldn't possibly be more victims, on October 14th, they received a call from a man who had been out hunting for artifacts with a metal detector in an orange grove near an old fort. While there, he came across a woman's bound body under a tree.
God
Right
damn.
away, investigators uncovered this girl's identity. 28-year-old Karen Dinsfriend was originally from St. Petersburg. Karen had
Bruh. Not the mullet. You done killed the mullet. Come on, man. Not the mullet.
been strangled with some type of ligature device, bludgeoned, and assaulted.
Okay, and how did you go about running into her?
She was walking down the street late at night. I asked her if she wanted a ride. She offered to have sex with me for $47.
$47?
She needed $47 for a fix.
Okay, what happened then?
All right, hold on. We're going to put a pin right there. This just lets you know what the going rate of pussy was like in the 80s. You could go get some pussy for $47. God damn. $47? Boy, shit. Niggas was out there fucking torturing shit. Boy, $47 is crazy.
Same things with the others. I was getting nervous about this place.
Uh-huh.
I think there were people around or something. Dogs were barking or they sounded close.
Okay.
So I put her in the trunk and I was going to take her somewhere else.
Okay, when you got to the second orange grove, what'd you do with her?
I took her out and drove her over to this tree.
You didn't carry her?
No, I drove her.
Okay, was she wrapped in anything?
Brown blanket.
How come you had the blanket?
I'd been using it to lay out in the sun on her.
Oh
As
my
the investigation continued, it was uncovered that Karen had last been seen working on Nebraska Avenue only several hours before her body was found in the grove.
Damn.
It seemed that Nebraska Avenue was the killer's hunting ground. A week and a half after Karen was found, Paul Botten was using a hydraulic backhoe to dig a
Another
ditch
one?
when he found the nude body of a young girl who
All right, man. This nigga's on one at this time. Come on, bro. This nigga is killing on a killing. Okay. My question is, did they have this nigga on the news? Was he on the news? Did these people know? Because y'all remember that used to be a thing. Serial killers on the news. Serial killers was a thing. You don't really see a lot of serial killers no more. They don't really promote that in the press. I mean, I'm sure there's still motherfuckers out there doing serial killing. But that, like the 90s, it was like notorious serial killers, like popular. Especially in the 80s. I was a kid, but I don't remember too much of that. But the 90s I remember. But I know serial killers was definitely a trend, and copycat killers. That was the people who copied the serial killers. They were called copycat killers. But I did see something like this recently on Netflix in the, New York, or like the outskirts of New York, where it was a guy targeting and killing all prostitutes and leaving their bodies all in the same area. It's on Netflix. I forgot what it's called. But it's crazy.
right where he was working.
Do you remember that one? And where did you meet her at?
On Nebraska.
Okay. Who was that girl, do you know?
Which one is this again?
This was the one on 301 that was badly decomposed that we found October 31st.
Weeks later, her fingerprints were used to identify her as 22-year-old Kimberly Kyle Hops. There isn't much known about Kimberly, except that she had last been seen as she walked with a group of prostitutes in the middle of October.
she was working. I just pulled over the side of the road. She came up to the car and asked me if I wanted a date.
Okay. And what'd you say?
I said, yeah, how much? She said, it was $30.
$30? God damn. The first one was $47. This one said $30. But okay, y'all. This is bad. Imagine if pussy was $30 in 2025. $30 is crazy. If pussy was $30 in 2025, what would be going on in the world today? Let me know, y'all.
Okay, what happened then?
So she got in the car, and when we stopped the car, I just tied her up and did the same thing with the other girl.
The similarities in the way these women were killed is noteworthy because it shows the depths of the killer's psychopathy. Murder by strangulation is extremely morbid and horrific. It's also a display of ultimate power and control over the victim.
I strangled her.
Okay, what was strangled with, remember?
She had a black, like, collar thing around her neck. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Was it still on her?
You tell me.
I don't remember.
I don't either. That's the only one I didn't make.
Once again, investigators weren't sure that her death was related to the others, but the much-needed break in the case came from the most unlikely turn of events. 17-year-old Lisa McVey left her job at Krispy Kreme on November 3rd and was riding her bike home when she realized she was being followed by a car. As she passed by a church, she was knocked off her bike. That's when she felt a gun pressing to her left temple and heard a click. Lisa was forced into the car and forced to strip before she was assaulted, tied up, and blindfolded.
He's more aggressive now, y'all. Y'all see how he's getting more aggressive? First, it was just like, the first girl he was like testing out. He was getting comfortable. Now y'all see as we done got up to this girl, which is about the 7th or 8th or whatever. Now he just bullying. She on a bike, he hitting her off the car, walking up with a gun, putting a gun in her head, get your ass in the car type shit. And it's like, now he's way aggressive. That's scary, man. That, you know, especially in those times, shit, nigga, they could just get around and just do this shit all fucking day. I saw somebody say the technology, like, yeah, technology wasn't what it is today. It wasn't no Ring cameras out then. It wasn't all these cameras, because this nigga is going on one.
Almost unbelievably, on this very day, Lisa had decided to take her own life and had even left a note on her dressing table. But now that she'd been abducted, Lisa decided that she was going to survive, no matter what it took. And if she didn't, she was going to make sure that whoever took her was caught. Lisa felt the car jolt as her kidnapper began driving, and at first, she had no idea where they were headed. Using her jaw, she managed to move the blindfold that had been tied over her face, allowing her to see just tiny glimpses of everything around her, including the car and the fact that they drove on the interstate north of Tampa. She took note of the word Magnum written on the dashboard, the white seats, and the thick red carpet on the floor mats. Because Lisa was menstruating, she made sure to leave her blood inside the car. Her captor pulled her from the car and led them inside an apartment, and Lisa counted 32 steps up to the door. Once inside, she noted the smell of fresh paint. When the man let her use the bathroom, she made sure she left her fingerprints everywhere she could. Lisa was determined that the police would know she had been in the apartment. She also tried to learn as much as she could about what her kidnapper looked like, even though she remained blindfolded. At one point, he took Lisa's hands and brought them up to touch his face. She used her fingers to feel that he had pockmarks, a mustache, and that his ears were small. He never let her see his face, but still, she tried to feel for anything that might identify him. She also peeked under her blindfold any chance she had to catch glimpses of him. If she survived, she wanted him caught. The man repeatedly assaulted her over the 26 hours that he held her captive. At one point, the man showed Lisa a bit of kindness and washed her hair. He fed her a ham sandwich, and when she was cold, he gave her a bathrobe to wear, but kept her tied up so she couldn't escape. Realizing that she could use this to her advantage, she tried to get him to sympathize with her. Lisa made up a story and told him that she was the sole caregiver to a sick parent. She also asked him why he did what he did, and to her surprise, he started to open up. He told her he had a bad breakup which made him hate women, but instead of being scared, Lisa told him he seemed nice and even said that maybe she could be his girlfriend. One of the reasons she reacted this way, trying to find the kindness in her kidnapper, was because she had experiences in her past and knew how to react in a way that wouldn't anger the man. And somehow, it worked.
Damn.
As Lisa was lying bound and blindfolded next to the man, he woke her at 4 a.m. the night after she'd been taken. He asked her what he should do with her, and Lisa again said she could be his girlfriend. Instead, though, he told her to get dressed and brought her back into his car. The man claimed that he would drop her off near her house, but first, he stopped at an ATM. Lisa had once again managed to loosen her blindfold and saw the sign for a local motel and shop. She knew exactly where she was. The man apologized to her before he stopped the car and let her out, warning her that she couldn't take the blindfold off for 5 minutes.
Wow. What the hell? That's a little smart broad right there. She a little smart one, cuz. She got her way up out of a serial killer. Damn.
When she got out, Lisa tripped on the curb and the man caught her before she fell. She heard him leave, and terrified that he would change his mind, she pulled off the blindfold to find herself in front of a tree in a churchyard. At first, the police were a bit skeptical that a 17-year-old girl had really managed to escape captivity and doubted her story. Yet when red fibers were found on Lisa's body that matched those found on other victims, the police realized that Lisa was the reason they would finally stop the man terrorizing Tampa. Lisa gave an incredibly detailed account of everything she saw and heard, but it was the word Magnum written on the dashboard that proved to be key. Almost immediately, investigators cross-referenced the names of Dodge Magnum owners in Florida to the people who used the ATM Lisa had seen. They found a name, Robert Bobby Joe Long.
Got him.
And here's the real kicker. Right after Lisa's testimony, at the height of the terror surrounding the killing spree, this very vehicle had been stopped on Nebraska Avenue on November 15th as part of the investigation. At the time, the driver had been told that they were stopped because their vehicle matched one that had been involved in a hit-and-run. He handed over his driver's license. It was none other than Bobby Joe Long. Bobby was cooperative and told the officer that he was on his way to get lunch and that he was unemployed. He even let them take a Polaroid picture of him and his car. However, he refused to allow his vehicle to be searched. The officer simply let him go, having no idea that they had just made a deadly mistake.
Right.
Lisa was shown the Polaroid, and despite the fact that she didn't see him clearly because of the blindfold, she had seen enough to identify him. She was instantly certain that Bobby was the man who had taken her. Over a week after Lisa's incredible escape, on November 16th, Bobby was arrested for kidnapping and battery at a movie theater. But what the police didn't know at the time was that they were already too late. His car was impounded, and the red fibers that were found at almost every crime scene were positively matched to the carpet of the vehicle. Bobby was then interviewed, and boy, did he have a story to tell.
You said something earlier. The reason you let go. You want to say that again?
I knew it would lead to me getting caught.
How did you know that?
I just knew it would. I knew she saw me. I had a pretty good idea she could see underneath the blindfolds. And it was a real trouble. We were trying to decide if I should let her go or not. I didn't want to hurt her.
Bobby had previously been arrested in 1974 for assault, but he explained that it was a completely different situation because he was married at the time and in the military, and he alleged that the woman who accused him had consented. Sure. On the same day Bobby was arrested, November 16th, he gave another unexpected confession. He said that he had kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered another woman, a woman whose body the police hadn't even found yet.
Damn.
Bobby told them exactly where to find the woman's body, and they immediately set out to locate her. The woman's skeletal remains were uncovered in a patch of scrub outside of Tampa. Her clothes were strewn around the scene. It wasn't hard to figure out her name. Her mother reported her missing on September 7th after she left for work the day before, but never made it back home. In fact, she had never even made it to work that day, which was unusual because the young woman was always punctual. 21-year-old Vicki Marie Elliott worked waiting tables overnight at a coffee shop in a Ramada Inn. She was getting ready to go back home to Michigan to study to become a paramedic, but she never had the chance. Because she walked a mile to work, Vicki always carried scissors with her for protection. She told people that men would frequently shout at her as she walked. Tragically, the scissors hadn't made a difference.
Damn.
They were found on the ground near her body.
Pulled around one of the side streets. and started to do the same thing that I did to the other girls, but she pulled these scissors out of her purse and tried to stab me.
Do you still have a mark?
I don't think so. It wasn't bad, just barely cut the skin. It was a struggle to get her tied.
But if you think it ends here, it doesn't. Not even close. Just days after his arrest on November 22nd, the police received another haunting call. Even though they had the monster in custody, they still didn't have the full story of his victims. A couple was walking in rural woods along a newly cleared drainage ditch when they saw a skeleton partially, specifically the skull, buried in a mound of sand. The body must have been uncovered as the drainage ditch was being dug. Because of the severe decomposition, it was believed that the body had been there for 3 to 6 months. What was clear, though, was the piece of rope tied around the tibia and fibula in a ligature, as well as around the hands and possibly also the neck. It was one of Bobby's victims.
The victims are still going through the fear that whoever victim is still out there. And it gives them peace of mind for the rest of their life to realize that you're not still out there and they're not susceptible. And maybe they can relax and start a normal life again. So anything you do it to help the victim. Get it off your chest.
Good example. When you let out of the car, remember I told you I didn't really believe the situation when I was first made aware of it. Made a comment to me. I said, for God's sake, why in the world didn't the first thing you did was stop the first car you saw on the street? She says, Sergeant Price, I was scared to look at another car. It scared her so bad, she didn't know who was going to be in the next car. That's why I understand that. Okay, that's the point he's trying to make. That these women feel the same way.
The woman's exact cause of death couldn't be determined, but because investigators found a braided hairband, keychain with a Rubik's Cube, a small tennis ball, and a blue lighter, the woman's family was able to identify her. 20-year-old Artis Wick had been Bobby's first victim, who he kidnapped back on March 27th, beginning his 8-month killing spree. And still, it doesn't end here. After letting Lisa go, Bobby had killed 2 more women in the span of 6 days before his arrest. 18-year-old Virginia Johnson and 21-year-old Kim Swan.
So he's definitely targeting girls that's 17 to 22. This nigga's a sicko, bro. In 6 days, and he's just on a spree. Strong-arming them for sex and then killing them. Like, what the fuck, bro? Listen. It's not even about the sex at this point, because sex is only $30. You ain't got $30, my boy? I think for him, it ain't even about the sex. It's about the thrill of watching people suffer. Sex is just like an addition to it, but he like, nigga, I want to see the bitch suffer. Yeah, that's a sick motherfucker, man. There's some sick people in the world, man. Super sick people.
Virginia was originally from Connecticut and was last seen on Nebraska Avenue. Her body was found on November 6th, just days after Bobby had taken Lisa. Kim, on the other hand, had been a dancer at the Sly Fox, but recently decided to change her life by enrolling in a program to become a medical technician. She was killed on November 11th after disappearing from a convenience store. As he was presented with hair and fiber evidence, Bobby leaned back in his seat and smiled, saying, "I guess you got me good. Yeah, I killed them. All the ones in the paper, I did them all." Psychopaths are proud of their horrific actions, will often show off about what they did, and take pleasure in the attention they are receiving. Bobby underwent psychological evaluations, and he was diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy that induced an altered state of consciousness, as well as inherited bipolar or manic depressive psychosis and an organic personality syndrome caused by tissue to the brain. In contrast, though, a third doctor said that they didn't find any indication that Bobby had a mental illness or disease except for severe antisocial personality disorder. Eventually, Bobby admitted to killing 10 women in total. It's very possible that the reason Bobby was so forthcoming with police was because he was proud of what he did, and he enjoyed describing the assaults and murders he committed. So his willingness to confess is likely due to his psychopathy, but not because he's insane. Psychopaths' narcissism is what causes them to enjoy attention and admiration. In Bobby's view, his murderous actions are worthy of admiration.
Hey, these motherfuckers be really sick, bro. They be looking like them psychopath, narcissist shit. What they talking about right here? They be looking at this shit like it's art. Like it's their art. They're creating canvases. I mean, they're creating dope art on canvases and shit, and they're gonna be legends, and their legacy will live on forever and all that. I watched a movie about that before on like the little. It was like about 10 different serial killers and how their mentals was and how they looked at this shit. They looked at this shit bigger than like, fuck this. This ain't just about killing people. This is about my legacy. I wanna do something that forever etches my name in the history books. That's some sick shit, bro.
I have just one question. How'd you get a full-size woman to sit still? In my mind, Bobby, you can't tie her hands and hold a knife on her.
Tie her and roll over on her stomach and recline the seat back.
Okay. There you go.
Sometimes it took more than just telling them. I would have to physically put their hands behind their back.
Did you ever have to strike them?
Yeah, a couple of times.
So, who was Bobby Long? The 31-year-old had been born in West Virginia. His parents separated when he was around 2 years old. Long's mother, Luella, raised him by herself. She worked late nights in a bar as a cocktail waitress, and Bobby reportedly resented her multiple short-term boyfriends. Growing up, Bobby suffered from a rare medical condition as he was born with an extra chromosome, which caused him to have a specific variation of Klinefelter syndrome. Because of this, he ended up growing breasts at 13, which he had removed with surgery. But as is often the case, he was bullied. He was reportedly deeply unhappy throughout much of his life.
A nerd.
Other symptoms of this disorder include weak bones, decreased facial and body hair, less muscle tone compared with other men, and increased belly fat.
Nerd.
It's possible that if Bobby had any of these characteristics, he may have developed various insecurities about his masculinity. This could have triggered his desire to victimize and overpower women in order to feel strong.
Crazy,
As a
man.
teenager, Long met a girl named Cynthia. He confided in her that his mother embarrassed him with the way that she dressed suggestively and dated different men. They eventually got married in 1974 and had 2 children together. As he grew up, Bobby was injured on multiple occasions. Starting at a young age, he almost drowned, fell from a swing, and was knocked unconscious, and suffered severe head injuries on 3 occasions. At 19, Bobby had joined the Army, but at 21, he was discharged after he was hit by a car while riding a motorcycle. His head, shoulders, and leg were seriously injured, and he spent several months in the hospital. After he recovered, there was a notable shift in his personality, resulting in being more short-tempered and physically violent. This injury may have marked the onset of traumatic brain injury for Bobby, which could have contributed to his psychopathic behaviors, though he may have had the predisposition for antisocial personality disorder, and then these head injuries made his condition worse. If there was a marked change in his behavior where he became physically aggressive with his wife, this really points to the fact that Bobby likely suffered a severe traumatic brain injury. This can impact a person's judgment and decision-making, depending on where the brain injury took place. So, after his divorce, which in itself is a stressful life event, Bobby probably became a ticking time bomb in terms of when he would begin acting on the severe anger and rage he had inside. It seems this event really spurred his crime spree because he began to use classified ads to meet vulnerable women in 1981. When he showed up at someone's house, if he found a woman alone and he had the opportunity, he would assault her. But this was just the beginning.
Right.
Shockingly, Bobby eventually admitted to assaulting around 40 women, yet he was never prosecuted by the
God damn. Jesus Christ. 40 women, then you killed 10?
authorities for most of these crimes because the statute of limitations had already expired by the time he was caught. Though he confessed to killing 10 women, Bobby only pleaded guilty in the murders of 8. Ning Peggy Long, Michelle Denise Sims, Elizabeth Loudenbach, Vicki Marie Elliott, Chanel Devin Williams, Karen Densfriend, Kimberly Kyle Hops, and Kim Marie Swan. In exchange for the plea, he received 28 life sentences, except for the murder of Michelle Sims, who he was sentenced to death for killing. After 34 years on death row, on May 23, 2019, at just before 6:55 p.m., now 65-year-old Bobby Joe Long was executed by lethal injection. No guests visited him at the prison before his death.
Get his ass out of here.
Still, 25 people were there to witness his execution, including Lisa McVey, The woman who had not only outsmarted Bobby, but was the reason he was eventually stopped. I wanted to look him in the eye. I wanted to be the first person he saw. Unfortunately, he didn't open his eyes. She said she began to cry once it was over. The peace that came over me is a remarkable feeling. Since her kidnapping, Lisa McVey Nolan went into law enforcement. She works as a deputy with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, the very same department that she had turned to in order to find Bobby Long and stop him for good.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, that was an interesting one, man. Serial killer. Again, man, in the 80s and 90s, and I'm sure before that, it was very, very extremely popular. Obviously, it wasn't as easy to find killers back then, so you could get away with a lot more. And you could, obviously, look at this dude. He assaulted 40 women through classified ads, and then went on to picking up streetwalkers and random girls and just killing them, and in the same car, staying in the same city. Like, it was some real sick motherfuckers. But again, look at the MO of this nigga. He was bullied his whole life. He was a outcast. He was a nerd, a goofy. So who do you take it out on? Somebody that's, remember I tell you, like, he got a type. I'm like, he got a type in this mother. He's going after the young, fragile girls who seem like they don't have nothing, like prostitutes and 17-year-olds to 22. He's staying in that pocket. He's not assaulting like grown women. He wants to prey on the weaker women in his eyes. You know what I mean? Because he's a weak motherfucker. But yeah, man, I always wonder, why do it take so long when somebody gets caught convicted of killing a serial killer? They get caught and convicted of killing 30, 40 people, 10, 20 people, whatever. Why do they got to wait 35 years to get killed? Like, if y'all going to kill them, why not just kill them? Is that like a torture thing? Like, let me let this motherfucker sit and rot, then kill him? That's kind of like a mental fuck for sure. Especially if they don't tell you when they're going to do it. I mean, who knows the reason for that? Like, why do they make you wait so long once you, like, why are you on death row for 40 years? Why don't they just execute you? I don't know. I never looked into that. Never really cared, but never looked into that. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section, man. Make sure y'all smash a like. Let's keep these reactions going. And as always, get ready for the next reaction.